Over the course of my time here on the channel, I've covered a lot of different ways to study. Most of them have been scientifically backed, but some of them were just things that worked for me without actually any evidence suggesting that they actually work for other people. Last week, I covered the Pomodoro technique, which pretty much just says every 25 minutes of studying, take a 5-minute break and then repeat. And that strategy is probably the most helpful for all, and it's also been scientifically proven. But I got a couple comments on that video saying, are there other ways to study that have been actually proven with evidence to work? Hi, my name is Wiley. Welcome back to another video here on the channel. And today I'll be covering a few study methods that are scientifically backed to work for you. First of all, if you haven't seen the Pomodoro video, I'll link it like right here in the corner, but I would definitely go watch it after watching this video, obviously. I mean, because you want to get the most out of every Athena AI video, right? But I think it covers the most amount of people. Like, we all have different ways to study, but I think the Pomodoro technique is really something that we can all apply to ourselves. So just make sure you go check that out. I honestly think that it would help you. It really helps me. So jumping right into some AP Psych lingo here. So if you are in that class, you might already know what I'm talking about, but I'm just going to introduce Hermann Ebbinghaus. I think I said that right. Not entirely sure. Anyways, he's the guy who introduced the forgetful curve into the world of psychology. And pretty much this just says that we don't remember things for a very long time. The first time that we learn it, it kind of fades away after a while. We really don't have that long to retain any information. So what we gained from this was the idea of spaced repetition. I'm kind of tying this in with the Pomodoro technique because it's kind of the same thing, but where the Pomodoro technique is more in one day, you sit down and you take a little 5-minute break in between every half-hour session of studying. The forgetful curve and spaced repetition says that you should take a longer break in between different sessions of studying. For instance, instead of studying 8 hours over one day, spread that 8 hours over 2 weeks. Really space it out and give yourself time to rest in between each session, and that should flatten out your forgetful curve. But yeah, that's just something to consider, especially for those of you that like to cram before a test. I know I like to do that. It just does not work as well as you want it to. Even if it's 4 hours over 2 weeks, like, you're still going to be able to remember that information more in a month's time than if you had spent 4 hours just one day trying to learn it. Next, and this one is super quick, it's pretty much just like your difficulty level, but in scientific terms, it's called desirable difficulties. And pretty much that just means that don't overdo it. Like, an example in a reading that I read while researching for this video, that makes sense. An example from an article I read while researching for this video, they talked about an example from going to the gym. When you go to the gym and you're doing like a dumbbell bench press, you want to make sure that you find a good amount of weight for you where you can, put on some gains but not be strained or hurt yourself in the process of it. But you also don't want too little where you're obviously not going to gain anything, but you can go for hours and hours and hours, right? Like, I don't know why I did this like that. So pretty much you just want to find that happy spot where you can take on as much material as you can that's not overloading you, but also isn't like a walk in the park, right? If one reading is really easy, maybe take on 2 or 3 more, but don't go for like 10 readings in a night or something. Like, that's too much. Just find that middle ground. And even though you might have way too much work and you feel like you need to do it all in one night, it's much more worth it to just knock out what you can and set aside the rest for a later time. Next up here is elaboration. And what I mean by this is you just need to elaborate on things. And I know the explanation wasn't very helpful, but what I mean by that is you just want to explain how, when, why, who, what, where your answer is coming from. One practice that another article I read suggested was to just write everything you know down on a piece of paper or presentation, and then try to tell someone about what you know, right? Show them the presentation, maybe you show them notes, like flip through your notebook a little bit, and let them ask you questions, because your ability to adapt and know the material well enough to be able to answer questions about it, whether or not you were expecting those questions, is really gonna kind of show how well you're gonna do on the test or quiz that you have. And kind of back to what I was saying before, like, if you have an answer to a question on the quiz that is the answer, and you know that you're not going to have to write more than that, just write out a why or how anyways, unless a teacher specifically says, don't overdo it, because sometimes teachers will say, like, if you write too much, I'll take points off. Sorry if that one didn't really make any sense. I kind of went back and forth a little bit in what I was saying, but I think you guys got the main point, because what I'm just trying to say is just explain your answer. Just put a little bit of effort into saying why your answer is the right one. Next and last for this video, we have dual coding. And dual coding is something that, honestly, I think it was introduced to me in like middle school, but I didn't really take too much effort to actually like try to do it. But now after reading about it, I'm definitely going to go through my textbooks and give this one a try.
But now after reading about it, I'm definitely going to go through my textbooks and give this one a try.
Pretty much what it is when you come across a diagram or some helpful note in the textbook. Don't just write it down word for word, or don't just copy down the diagram, you know, design for design. You want to try to give it your own spin. Maybe it's with different colors, or you just rewrite the sentence that you want to copy down, or you kind of like reorganize the graphic as long as it has the same idea, right? And this way it helps you remember it, because like I said, in literally every study video I've ever made here on this channel, but like handwriting things like really helps you remember it a lot better than if you typed it up or just like read it and are like, okay, I can remember this for later. Like handwriting things sends a message to your brain. It's like, hey, I need to remember this. Trust me, it is way more fulfilling to have a notebook packed full of your own handwritten notes than like a couple Google Docs or Microsoft Word documents that are just like, you know, scattered with typed out notes here and there. All right, guys, that was a video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know down below. I'm happy to answer them as fast as I can. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.